I'm Kat, and this video is the third in my series of actual DIYs that I did for my wedding this year. In this video I show you these little survival packs I made for my bridesmaids. I wanted them to have a few little supplies that they could take with them on the plane because I did have a destination wedding in Puerto Rico. They included an eye mask, some basic supplies, and this pouch, and I made the pouch and the eye mask to match each other. So if you like this video, make sure you check out my other videos in this series, and I hope you enjoy it.
To start the bag, you'll need some thin batting, 2 different colors of fabric, a 7 to 9 inch zipper, pins, scissors, a rotary tool or fabric shears, pen or pencil, thread, and a piece of paper. And of course, your sewing machine. To start, count 5 inches up from the bottom right corner and make a mark, then 6 inches from the top right corner and make another mark, and draw a line slightly down, and this doesn't have to be perfect. Then make a mark on that line approximately 2 inches above this first mark that you made. Then on the bottom, make another mark 8 inches from the right. Then you'll make another mark 2 inches below your upper center mark. Make another mark 2 inches to the left of that one. Then you'll simply connect the dots and then cut out your template. To use your template, you'll place it along the fold in your fabric and then cut it out so that you have a piece that ends up looking like this. You'll want to cut 2 of your lining, 2 of your fabric, and 2 of your batting. To start piecing everything together, place your batting, then your outer fabric right side up, then your opened zipper right side down along the upper edge. Then take your lining fabric and place that right side down over everything. You're going to pin along the upper edge where the zipper is, and then stitch along just that seam. You'll end up with something like this. Then you'll want to close up that zipper. And for the next step, you're going to have to pin down these layers to each other so that nothing gets backed up and sewn into any of the seams that we're going to sew next. Then place your second piece of batting, your second piece of fabric right side up. Then put your zipper that's already sewn into your other piece right side down along that upper edge once again. Then you'll take your last piece of lining and place that right side down, all of these along the same upper edge. Then you'll pin those together and sew them the exact same way you did your first side. I like to finish this up with a teeny tiny 1 to 2 millimeter seam all along the zipper edge, but you don't have to, it's completely optional. Next, you'll take your batting and one side of fabric, then place your other side of fabric face down and the batting on top of that. Then pin all around the edges of your bag except for your right angles on the corners. So you're going to start by pinning all the way along this long side over here, then along the bottom of the bag, then along the other long side, both outer fabric and lining on each side. Then you're going to stitch the bottom of the lining a couple inches on either side and make sure you leave a gap in the center. Once you've done that and taken out all of your pins, you're going to open up these right angles that you left without sewing. You're going to open them up so that the right sides of the fabric are facing each other, fold one flap in either direction, and then pin across those. I like to use a lot of pins with this slippery fabric, that way everything ends up where it's supposed to be. You'll need to do this step for both of your lining corners and both of your outer corners of your bag. You'll simply stitch a straight line across each of those seams, and then once that's done, you'll trim off the excess to avoid bulk in your bag. Repeat this step for all 4 of your corners. Once that's done, now the hole that you left in the bottom of the lining is going to come in handy because you're going to turn the entire bag through that hole in the lining. Once you've turned it, make sure you poke out all of those corners and really fluff everything up nicely. Now it's time to pull out the lining and contend with the hole that you left in the bottom of it. I like to just pin the entire bottom seam of the lining and do one long machine stitch across it, but if you don't want to do that, you can just hand stitch that tiny hole that you left in it. Then take out all of the pins and tuck it back into your bag, and you pretty much have a finished bag all ready to go. Now it's time to get started on your eye mask. To do this, you'll need a piece of paper, some scissors, a cutting tool or fabric shears, a pen or pencil, thin batting material, and 2 colors of your material, as well as ribbon, thread. And for this step, you can either use one of these adjustable bra strap type elastics or regular elastic or your ribbon. You'll also, of course, need your sewing machine, pins, and whatever tools you like to use to get the job done. Start by placing your wrist at the edge of a piece of paper and making a loose fist. Trace loosely around the area. This is just going to be a vague outline for your mask template. You'll want to make sure once you cut this out that it's approximately the size and shape that you want your mask to be. Remember, you'll want this to be a little bit larger than your mask because you have to account for seam allowances. Then you'll want to fold your batting over in half, place the straight edge of your template along the fold, pin that down, and then cut it out using your fabric shears or your rotary tool. Hold it up to your face and check that it's a size that you like. Then you'll want to repeat this step with both of your fabric colors. I had already made robes for my bridesmaids out of these materials, but I am cutting along the grain of the fabric. My edges just look a little bit weird because they're leftover scraps of fabric. Once you've cut everything out, you're ready to start assembling. Place your batting piece and then place your regular fabric piece on top of that, right side facing up. Next, you'll want to place your elastic or your ribbons. If you're using ribbons, it's more adjustable, but you'll want to place one piece of ribbon on either side of the mask and make sure you pin all the excess down so it's not going to get in the way when you sew everything together. Since I'm using this adjustable strap, I'm not too worried because I'm just going to set the adjustability to the very center, and I know I can loosen it or tighten it as much as needed. If you're using just a regular piece of elastic, you'll want to measure around your entire head, then subtract the measurement from one side of your mask to the other. Make sure you also take into account your seam allowances, and then the difference will be how much elastic you need to cut out and using your mask. I find that using this adjustable thing takes all the guesswork out of it, and if you're giving it as a gift, it's a much better option. Next, take your pins and pin all the way around your entire mask, but make sure you mark a place for yourself that you're not going to stitch up so that you can see where you're going to turn the mask. For me, I put 2 pins right next to each other, then left a gap, then put 2 more to remind myself while I'm sewing. Then sew the entire thing at about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. You don't need a huge seam allowance because these seams are not going to have any pressure on them, so just go slow and make small seams. Once you've sewn all the way around, make sure to clip the curves. That way nothing's going to bunch up after you turn your project. I just clip along the curve of the nose, and then turn your project from the gap that you left. Once everything is turned, make sure you poke out all of the corners with a long object, and after you contend with the gap, you're going to be completely done with these. Now, you can leave your masks basically like this, and they'll be completely finished, but I personally like to add a little bit of a finishing touch with the machine. So next you'll have to contend with that gap in the top of the mask where you left your seam to turn your mask. You can either tuck it in carefully and then pin along that, and finish it on the machine, or you can stitch it up by hand, or you can take another option, which I prefer, which is to add a teeny tiny seam around the entire mask at somewhere between 2 and 3 millimeters. But if you want to leave them like this, it's also completely up to you, and whatever you prefer is fine. Once you've finished your masks, you can tuck one into each of your bags and then load them up with any other goodies that you think your bridesmaids or whoever you're giving this bag to might enjoy. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and check out my other DIY wedding videos in this series.